We're going to be talking about the Industrial Revolution today, and most of you are probably asking, why do I care about this? If you have electricity, if you eat oranges in February, your 12 years of free formal education, and actually the water you drink, literally your whole life, can be contributed in everything you do, and all the luxuries that you enjoy today can be contributed to the Industrial Revolution. You're going to see some changes occur first in Europe, specifically in England, and then it will spread to various parts of the world. You see that most people at this time, 80% of the population was consumed really in agriculture, and that will switch to a factory system, while 20% of society at this time, and again we're talking mid-18th to mid-19th century, 20% of people were really starving. Today we have less than 1% of all people are involved in agriculture. Let's talk about some specific causes of the Industrial Revolution. It really starts with farming, because you've got to get those people, 80% of the population that is starving, off of the farms and doing different work. Really, the Industrial Revolution, it is the changing of people's work, how they produce food, what they do for a living, and you're going to see a shift from handmade tools to machine-powered tools, and also they will use new energy sources and technology to greatly improve their lives. We're going to start first with the agricultural revolution, because like I said, we got to get these people off the farms, and it's going to start really with the enclosures, or the enclosure movement. You will see that landowners will enclose their land either by fencing or hedges. It's going to enable them to get animals off and people off their land, and they are going to cultivate larger fields, and they will use things like fertilizer. They will use different techniques like crop rotation. Here's an example. You can see the various fields are enclosed. Here's another example, and this is going to be done again to improve, and you're going to see the results of this. They will try new agricultural methods, and large landowners are going to force small farmers to become tenants, or to even give up their farming and move to the cities. And when they move to the cities, they're going to be finding agricultural jobs. To talk to you about just a few people here, Robert Bakewell, he's involved in animal husbandry. If you don't know what this is really breeding animals, the best animals, different breeds, to produce a larger animal. For example, during this time period, the size of a lamb went from 18 pounds to 50 pounds. Moving on to Jethro Tull, who will make some improvements really in farming, specifically with planting. He will use iron plows, and he will plant with drills, and this is going to really have the seed lay precisely in rows, and they wouldn't just be kind of scattered, and it will give you a greater crop, and it will permit longer growing seasons. And here's a picture of his seed cultivator, Jethro Tull. And now moving on to Charles Townsend, who is really going to kind of perfect crop rotation, which will result in more food, and even food in the winter, and larger animals. Basically what would happen is, this was a long-standing practice really of the Middle Ages, is that you would have to leave land fallow, which means it wasn't used every couple of years, so you could get a better crop return. And now they're going to try to figure out and say, well, maybe we don't need to leave that land fallow. We could actually grow a crop that restores nutrients and feeds the livestock. And a couple of root crops that they're going to find, clover, potatoes, and especially turnips, will put nitrogen back in the soil, so you won't have to leave that land fallow, and you will again get greater crops. And moving on now to talk about, where did it begin and why? It's really going to begin in Great Britain, and it's not going to be because these people are better, but they have a lot of natural resources. Most of you know that Britain pretty much is an island. They've got a lot of rivers, they've got a lot of harbors, they have a positive social climate, they have a banking system, they have capital, they have entrepreneurs, and they also have a middle class where it's not going to necessarily be looked down upon to be involved in investment and things like that. And if you remember political stability, you should know and remember that in 1689, they had the Glorious Revolution. So they have a limited monarch, and they have parliament that's in charge, versus a country like France, who again is dealing with the French Revolution. So we're talking about the Industrial Revolution from about 1750 to 1850. Again, like I said, they have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Those are the conditions really needed for this huge industrial revolution. And again, you can see the geography and the map really of Great Britain and see all the things that are going on. If you don't know what a textile mill is, because they will have, if you see here, chief pre-industrial textile areas, you will see that because of the mercantilism system, India, they are going to get a lot of cloth from India, and then they're going to start to produce this cloth, manufacture it in Great Britain. Looking at more maps of Great Britain or England, you can see because of this industrial revolution, again, include the agricultural revolution as a part of that, you're going to see a huge population explosion, and that's going to be more people really that can work in the factories during this time period. And you're also going to need coal, which we're going to talk more about. Why didn't it occur somewhere else? Why did it have to be Britain? A lot of other places, so these are all qualifications of other countries where this is not happening. It's hard to, obtain credit, raise capital. They have suspicion of paper money. The government's debasing currencies. A lot of the nobles aren't really interested in manufacturing. They have fewer roads, a less entrepreneurial spirit, political disruptions. For example, France is a good example. They're focusing more on agricultural, and it's going to stay the focus. And you're going to see that Britain will try really hard to keep their monopoly of the factory system, of the steam engine, and they will prevent artisans and machinery from leaving. They will try to do that. It's not going to work forever, but they're going to try. You're going to see first where it spread. These are the 5 areas it's going to spread. And you're going to see then these areas will also spread these ideas of the Industrial Revolution. To talk specifically about the factory life, because you have farmers, peasants that are really put out of work because of the enclosure movement and the large landowners taking over, they're going to need a job. So they're going to go to these urban areas in these cities, and they will be working in the factory system. Primarily, they're going to be in textile mills. You're going to see different inventions like this flying shuttle and spinning jenny are going to make weaving and the production of yarn go much faster. And then they're going to use a new energy source, and it really is going to be water. They're going to use water to actually power their mills and their factories. And then eventually they're going to figure out if you heat this water, that's going to produce steam. And you will see that anybody and everybody's going to be working in the factory system. And you can see that the working conditions are horrible. And as you look at these pictures, you're going to see really dirty, unsafe conditions. You're going to see children. We have children documented as young as 5 years old are working in the factory system. And you can see, again, what they're doing and how these different machines are going to produce cloth, which will then be made into different shirts and things like that. And what they used to do, you're going to see that coal will be the main source of energy, and they used to actually use urine to actually dye their cloth. They're going to go in again and be involved in mining and find that you're going to have sulfuric acid that will actually be found in the lead mines, and that will be used to actually dye clothes. Again, people didn't want just the plain white shirts and things like that. And you're going to see children average age 7 or 8 because they had been working with their families on the farm. It's just going to be an easier transition for them. And you're going to see eventually in the future that people are going to say kids should not be working, they need to be in school. And then you're going to see people say we need to provide free public education. You can see this boy here has no shoes. And again, if you would lose a finger, lose a hand, get hurt, you're out of luck. No insurance, no payment. You are just unlucky. The business owners and the factory owners are not going to really have any accountability for what happens to the workers. And you will again see families will be working in these factories, and you'll see they're working about 14 hours a day. Probably the worst job you could have would be in a coal mine, and they often use little children that could go and kind of crawl in these holes and bring things up. Very dangerous job. People would have like black lung. And again, they didn't have autopsies, so you didn't know why people necessarily die at this time. But you do see that you will see wages will increase, and you do see that British workers are really the highest paid in the world. Now, how did this all start? We used to have what we call like a putting out system, which is where a village would be really responsible for making cloth and the clothes and things like that. and now it's going to be in turn put onto the factory system. A couple of inventions during this time period that we definitely want to talk about. I know you guys have heard about the light bulb, and again, James Watt's going to be responsible for the steam engine, and you guys are going to know the steam engine is going to power different, spinning machines in the factory, but it's also going to be used to actually power railroads. The steam engine. Here's an example. Again, this is the first time that, again, people's main mode of transportation really has been by horse for really 15,000 years, and now we see this huge change that's happening. And you're going to see railroads, and they're going to need iron and steel, and you're going to have the Bessemer process, which will make steel, again, cheaper and faster. We've got the spinning jenny, which is going to be produced, a spinning machine produced really by steam power. We've got the sewing machine, and again, if you're living in the 19th century, you're going to see how, again, greatest revolution, how your life will really change during this time. We've already talked about the seed drill, and again, you're going to see Arkwright will produce what's called the water frame. And again, you can see how spinning and weaving will be done and made faster. You will see various things like vaccinations. Here's a picture of the flying shuttle. And the cotton gin will people in America were really concerned, and they had been trying to get these industrial secrets. Samuel Slater is going to be the first British man to come over to America and actually share secrets. And he actually drew like the factory system, the inside of it, and the machinery, really by memory. But you're going to see that Americans will be behind, and a lot of it is because the cotton in the South, they have a lot of dirt in it and things like that. So this cotton gin is going to make cotton production in the United States a lot faster. So America will begin to compete with Great Britain. When you have finished, please look and take the quiz on this and be ready for a lively discussion, and we also will play a game based on you drawing really different scenarios in the Industrial Revolution.